So let's get started. Can you please state your name and spell it, just so we have the
Okay.
right spelling?
Okay. My name is Lyndall, Lyndall, Young, Young.
And can you tell us where you work and your job title?
Sure. I'm I work for Western Colorado Area Health Education Center. I'm an educator. I'm a nurse also. I'm also a home health nurse. I teach yoga and circuit class, and I'm a personal trainer at Bill Heddle's Rec Center and Anytime Fitness. I also am a potter, and I homeschool my kids, and the list goes on.
Wow. Um, can you describe for me your average day and your job duties pre-pandemic?
Sure. Um, I usually don't have one day that looks just like the next. With all of my different things that I am involved in, but it looked like I would get up, I would go to the gym, teach a class or have a client. I would come home, get breakfast for the kids. If it was a day I was teaching, I would travel to either Grand Junction or Montrose or Delta, and teach a class. Of course, if it's a day of homeschool, then I'm here teaching the kids. We'd usually come home and be rushing to different sporting either events or taking kids to different lessons and things like that. So that was kind of pre COVID.
Pre-COVID.
Yes.
What is your day like now?
Yeah, so it's definitely changed. No gyms, right? No classes. Definitely don't have to worry about getting up early and going to the gym. But it has been staying home. We were lucky that we homeschooled before this. So really our homeschool days look the same. If anything, we have gotten more done. We're actually ahead of what we usually are, because usually we're like running to lessons and different things in sports about mid-afternoon, and we haven't had to do that this time. So we have done some different projects outside. It's where we also have animals and farm and different things, and it's springtime, so it's a busy time in general. We're actually usually struggling to get things done, and we're kind of ahead now. So if anything, we're doing better. I've also had the opportunity to do a lot of learning for myself, of doing things online, that I always felt like I was okay with technology and computers and stuff, but I've definitely been able to broaden my horizon and do the teaching online, and Lela and I have been doing yoga on classes online for people, recording them, and so it's been neat.
Tell us about the teaching and through AHEC, the transition from teaching in person to online.
Yeah, so it kind of came about a really neat way, actually, because I had a class scheduled in Montrose that was right at the beginning of April. So it was kind of right
What
when
was that class?
it was a primary care provider with a QMAP, and also had first aid and CPR with it. So it was a whole PCP class.
Personal care provider.
Personal care provider, yep. And so I had this week-long class planned out, and things started closing down, and it wasn't going to happen. And I talked with Georgia, my boss, and stuff about, she had some ideas about moving some things online, and I was all for that. I thought it sounded like a great idea and just an awesome opportunity to take advantage of. And we had these students that had the time off and were wanting a class during that time. And so I got some Zoom lessons, and then we just kind of hit the door, hit the floor running. We started, and it was kind of a learning thing. I wasn't sure how long it would take me to get through things, and it has just been really a pleasant surprise how great it's all gone.
How do you think it went from the student's perspective?
So I think in the beginning it took a little bit longer just with the setup and stuff of it, but then I was able to connect with them a lot more than even if I had a huge classroom, I felt like, because we had some great conversations and they were right there. They felt like they could email me and text me back and forth, because we had kind of done that with the setup and getting more comfortable. And I did meet with them for their testing and clinicals last Friday, and they even really expressed how they loved the setting. They felt like they were close with me. They felt like it was easier to ask questions than in a big group full. I had one girl that said just going to the class, like physically going, was causing her lots of anxiety before, and that she felt like the online class was an answer to prayers, because she said it was great that it had just cut her anxiety down by a ton, and she was able to concentrate on the class itself.
Where are your students located?
So they're all over. So they're Montrose, Olathe was the majority of these, since that was a Montrose class. But we did meet in Delta for our test, and I'm planning on another online class for the end of May, and I'm hoping for mid-May, hoping that it'll be pulling from Montrose, Olathe, Delta, Cedar Edge, Hotchkiss, Crawford. We pull from a pretty large amount around here. So
Those sound like some pretty rural areas.
definitely, yes, definitely. And that's another huge thing. So if we keep offering these online, which I think it's a great opportunity, that this has come out of this, that not everything, I'm sure, but a lot of this just worked perfect online. And I have sometimes people coming to my class that are traveling, an hour and a half to get, out of even more rural places than where I am, my surrounding areas, to my classes. And, these online classes give them an opportunity that, maybe they only have to make that trip, once or twice, other than, for multiple times.
Every day. So the people who take your class, where do you recruit them from, and where do they end up going to work?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different places that they come from. We get people in class that it's their first time in healthcare, clear to ones that have been working as, a primary care attendant or provider, or even a CNA, and they're wanting to expand. We do advertising in like assisted livings and different home health. Emails go out to those places. It's also on Facebook. And the website, so people that are interested in it. And I think that's been a huge jump too during this time, that we have people that never really thought the healthcare maybe was the right avenue for them. And, if they were laid off from their other jobs, they've come over and, wanted to help and get a job in healthcare.
Nice. Tell me about some of the current challenges that you've experienced during this time.
Well, as far as work, definitely, even though they were still having classes in Grand Junction, I was, I felt bad that I couldn't go and teach in person there. I have two kids, and one of my daughters has had a liver transplant, and so we had to be real careful with her. And so that was a challenge in the beginning, definitely feeling like maybe I wasn't able to go and kind of, do my job for that reason. But then after the online things were set up and stuff, I think maybe the challenges would be just a little bit of the technical side of things, learning how to do more. And but I think we're all learning to do more things, computer savvy things during this time. My kids are doing all kinds of different dance lessons and musical theater lessons and pre-calculus, and everything now that was an in-person thing has all moved to computer. So I feel like we've all kind of, gotten over that hump or that anxiety that came with the computer and Zoom and Google Hangouts and Google Classrooms and everything together. So it's been good though. I feel like we're all more computer savvy because of it.
Mm-hmm. How's Lela doing with this?
Yeah,
I
she's
can
been
imagine
good.
it might increase her stress a little bit. I mean, we're in week, 6 now? 5 or
So we're
6?
actually in 7. So we
7.
started, yeah. So we started kind of a week before everybody else, because of Lella. We decided, that it was a good time. Kind of had gotten some, some good advice from our medical team that maybe it would be a good time to kind of buckle down, and we were fine with it. I actually didn't have any stress because we already homeschooled, and I was fine with spending more time at home. So um, I'm actually having way more stress, and I think she is too, with the idea of starting things back up. That's definitely the scary part, I think, for us. But yeah, we've just really looked at it like a real positive thing. We've had more time. My kids talked me into goats kind of right before this happened. And so we have farm animals that we deal with all the time. And I think that she's always been in all of our conversations with, this is what's happening. This is why, we have to
Mhm.
be careful. And we also live right next door to my parents, and my dad has had a stem cell transplant. And so, and they're over 70 years old, and we take care of them. And, I was picking up prescriptions and stuff for them in the beginning, and, you know, being really, really careful. And we've just tried to err on the side of caution.
Mhm.
So, but she's doing good. It has been awesome for her to go ahead and have that option that she could do, like she has her point shoes and does ballet and is in musical theater. So to have
Mhm.
that option to continue with that has been really good for her too. So, and I was going to say, back on the computer and everyone getting more savvy, we
Yeah.
actually talked about that in my primary care provider class and in the QMAP class, because we talk a little bit about, computer charting. And I've had people in past classes be like, oh, the computer, oh dear, and I actually had
Mhm.
one girl, one woman in this class that it didn't come easy to her, and we had lots of talks back and forth and emails and texts just to help get her set up and stuff. But when we talked in person, when they were doing their med passing, and we talked a little bit about charting instead of just on the paper Mars on the computer. And she said, I feel so much more comfortable now charting on a computer because I've done so much with it this week. So, I mean, that's really a plus, that we don't usually give computer skills as one of our things in our class. And these people are getting those extra computer skills because especially now, but even before, everything, was moving more towards computer charting and online Mars charting.
I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. And the care provider classes that you teach, it's an entry level,
Right.
first time in healthcare position.
Yep.
Perhaps somebody with not a big background, even folks who haven't been in like a school setting in some
Right.
time, wanting to get back into the workforce. And I can see that part of it would be real kind of stressful.
Yeah.
So that is a good point. I hadn't thought of that we are actually teaching some fundamental computer skills.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
This
I
program.
thought it was funny because she even emailed me that thank you, on Sunday night after. That was her. And she emailed me that. I was even thinking she would just call me in the beginning. She didn't even want to send me a text in the beginning. That's how, she was really, and like you said, an older person coming back into the, workforce. She had been a CNA a long time ago. So had an idea about the healthcare, but really kind of new into the workforce again. And I thought at the end there, she is sending me emails. So it was good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. How do you feel like things are going for you're in Montrose or in Delta?
I live in Delta. Yeah. And it's really weird as far as COVID right now. We're actually seeing our little, hopefully, peak right now, but we had 6 positive cases yesterday. So we're up to 33 cases in Delta County, and Mesa County, I think, has 35 right now. So we're almost to beat you guys, and we're like a tenth the size.
Mhm.
So we're having a little bit of an issue right now. And I think that opening up is even scarier. And I don't know. It's been an interesting time. But
I had seen the numbers from Montrose County,
right.
and that they were a bit higher than the others. And I read that they were 2 nursing home
Yep.
outbreaks and then one in a pet treat factory
Huh.
recently.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one.
if in Delta they've been like little pockets in different.
It has. So, well, that one nursing home is actually in Olathe. So that's in between like Delta and Montrose. So it's Montrose County, but it's like 11 miles from my house that is
Probably
there.
people work
Right. So we have
different
lots of
communities.
people that work, in that same community. We also had a little breakout at the mine. Um, and so that has been kind of affecting some of the families around here that we know. And we're actually more and more getting to be like, we personally know people that have it or have it in their household or something like that now, which is, that's been new the last couple of weeks. Before, it was just kind of this thing you hear about, and
Yeah.
and now it's definitely closer to home now. But you know, uh, I'm still doing my home health too. So I have a client that I go to home health, and I think if anything, this has all increased compassion wise. I mean, I think you've we've increased our counseling services along with whatever we're in with the classes and with home health, because people are concerned, and I think it's good for them to have people to talk with, especially people with home health when they're home and they're watching the news all day long and you're the only
Hmm.
person they see. When you get there, they have lots of concerns that they need to talk about and they need to get out. And I feel like compassion is, as for me at least, has really increased for people, because I think we're all in the same boat, kind of scared of what's happening, but we're wanting to feel in control and do what we can during this time. So
Um, is your husband in the mine?
no, he's actually the public works director for the town of Cedar Edge. So that's been kind of interesting too. So at the beginning of this whole deal, he actually sent the majority of his people underneath him home. And so he was kind of running everything. So they have a water plant and the sewer plant, and he had a couple guys like part time at those, but pretty much he was doing like everything. So all of his stuff had really increased, so he was busy during this time as well. So, and now he has everybody back except for one actually is in quarantine right now because his son works at the mine and they have it in their family. So he has one guy that's still not back to work yet, but we're glad he's staying at home.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, that's really scary being in a small community like that and then actually knowing being impacted directly.
It
Uh,
is, for sure.
that has not yet been my experience, and I am grateful.
Yeah, it's crazy because we were really concentrating on that family because Jerry knew, he had not been around that guy, and knew exactly when it was the last time he was, and we were just
Hmm.
kind of watching that, and then he got a text, I think yesterday, about another guy that comes and is a independent contractor that does some work for him sometimes, and his wife was one of the nurses at one of the nursing homes, and so now they're quarantined, with it, and so it
Hmm.
is, getting it from multiple sides now, which is scary.
Yeah.
So, but
How do you think people are going to remember this time in history? Any thoughts about that?
I did. um, so I think it'll be interesting how people look back on this time. So I hope they look at it at a time that something very scary came along and we were able to adapt and conform and continue with our lives in a safe manner and do the best and give the best care possible we could during this time. I hope they look back and see what was gained for it, the things we learned during this time, or the things that came out of it. Just like the primary care provider course, like saying, "Wow, that how cool that we can do part of that online now." But other things too, like just being, prepared in different ways, not just on a person to person, but like hospitals having these plans and being more organized and ready for crisis. Everyone should be a little bit more prepared or have it in the back of their mind. Oh, I was there when this happened, so I'm going to make sure that I'm ready. So hopefully they'll look back in it. I hope that families look back and it was a positive time when their kids were home more. Um, and they were able to slow down a little bit. And we have a crazy busy schedule. Normally, we're running. Doyle, my son, is a junior in high school, and he was actually in high school swimming and high school track at two different schools when this started, along with homeschool and the end of his pilot license. He's right at the end of getting his pilot license. And so just his schedule and going to all of his events and then throwing in Lella's stuff and my stuff and everybody, it just,
Mhm.
it was like everyone in the United States, I think, schedules. We ran from one thing to the next. And we have definitely been shown how nice it is not to be quite as busy. And I hope people look back and cherish that time that they got to be home with their kids, or got to slow down a little bit more, or you know hold their home health client's hand when they were nervous about this, or show someone a new skill online that they were too nervous to come to a class for, or give someone a new line of work that opened their mind, that they had been a waitress forever, and now they're a CNA, and just that care that they're giving they has completely changed who they are as a person, because they're in the healthcare world now, and
Mhm.
love it. So hopefully they look back on it as a scary but that positive things came out of it time.
I know we're jumping around a little bit, but can
That's fine.
you describe, like, assuming people don't know what a personal care provider is, can you
Sure.
describe that and then describe like the week-long program?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So the primary care provider program, the class starts out the first day where we really just introduced what a PCP does. So a primary care provider is mainly someone that either goes into someone's home, like in a home health setting, or works in assisted living, and they're really there to help people do their activities of daily living. So it's just the things that they need help with every day, from brushing their teeth to cleaning their house to cooking meals to helping with transfers. It's just the main bottom level of that personal care. It's someone that maybe has broken a hip, or has some sort of disability, or is aging, and they can't quite do all of that on their own. They're the person, kind of that first line of defense, to come into the person's home and give them that care that they're unable to do themselves. So we usually have one day where we talk about that and the importance. They learn about universal precautions and hand washing, and that's changed with the COVID too. We kind of we took a little bit more time on that, and talked about protecting ourselves and others, and our personal protection equipment a little bit more. During that day, we usually do Narcan and opioid training as well. Then the class goes on. They do a CPR, first aid, bloodborne pathogens day. Ours looked a little bit different with our Zoom, because they did a blended part for that. So we were able to just do the bloodborne pathogens part as a Zoom, and talk about it a little bit more. And then when we got together for our in-person day, they were able to go through the check off for that. Then QMAP is the Qualified Medication Administration Personnel, through the state of Colorado. That is a two-day course. It took us a little bit more than that, just because of the different times that we were on the computer and stuff. I gave them, we were in a little bit shorter segments, but a few more times. And it qualifies people to pass meds, like at assisted livings, and home health, and some different things like that. And it's usually one day of all instruction, and then another day of testing and hands-on clinical. So we were able to get all the classroom stuff done in Zoom, and then we just did the clinical then when we met, and the testing. So it worked well. We were actually able to. We have a school that's not in order right now that has a half indoor, half outdoor classroom. And has tables and chairs and stuff, and so that's where we were able to do our class, because we do come from such rural areas, and we had the Montrose and Olathe, and working in those, I just we didn't, I wanted to take all precautions necessary. So we wore masks and we were outside and yeah, so it was a really good class. So yeah.
Um, Tell me about, has this, you said you also do home health.
Hmm.
How, if at all, has your work changed, or have you been advised differently, or what's, who, are you an independent contractor? Do you work for an organization that offers home health?
So yeah, I do private home health. So mask wearing, that's changed. So I wear a mask, and cleanliness has changed on that one. I mean, we've increased the, amount we're using Clorox wipes and gloves and everything in there, just keeping everything cleaner. Um, the main thing with the mask, I think, is people have trouble hearing, and you don't realize how much people, and me including, read lips.
Mhm.
And so when people have masks on, that takes that away. So I think it's a little bit of a communication barrier that you have to work on to make sure people are understanding you and hearing you, and then just that part of the fear factor coming in. I feel like people that are at home all day with not very much interaction, and they're watching the news and they're getting upset, you know, about different things. I think that has impacted my clients more than anything else, because they're just, there's not much distraction there. So when but it's so nice that they then have someone that's coming in and they are able to talk, even if it's just for a few hours every week, or about what's concerning them. I think that helps their health overall. So
Do you have anything else you want to add, or is there something I forgot? I know I sent you these
yeah,
sample questions beforehand.
right. I was gonna see if I wrote anything down. Um, I think that one of the things I had written down about like trying to be a leader during this time, that I think has been interesting for me, because I've never had an issue like getting in front of a class and teaching. Um, but when you're not 100% sure why you're muted, or why you won't do something, or and you're telling them you're going to send them a recording, but you're not 100% sure how to do that, I think you have to be more sure of yourself, and that or you have to display that you're, to your students or to whoever's underneath, you're working with or whatever, that maybe it's not 100% what you're doing, but you want to make sure they think that what you're doing. So I think being sure of yourself, I wrote down, that's been a little bit different for me. I think you've pretty much hit everything that I wrote down.
Okay.
Being better prepared and more organized, and knowing that we're not like invincible, that I think that just healthcare, in general, that we go, and I mean, I've worked in lots of different healthcare situations, but I've also been the parent and the daughter of people that have spent multiple months in hospitals getting different kinds of transplants and stuff. And, it runs in a pretty smooth operational way, all those places. And, even though you're scared to death for your own patient, that it's like clockwork, that those people are going to come in and everything's going to happen. And I feel like this has definitely, put a stick in one of those clockwork clogs, that it's, it couldn't keep going the way it is. And I hope that we really learn from that in all of healthcare, to be, more prepared and more, ready, that, stuff like this can happen.
Mhm.
So I don't know. That's about it. I think that I had written down for my stuff.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, sure. I hope it was okay.
You know what? It's going to be.
Okay. Well, if you think of anything else, we can go again.